Welcome to Homestead Reptown. Since spooky season is coming up, I'm going to talk to you guys and share some stories about my unpleasant experiences at a reptile expo. So I was going to this one expo I prefer to go to. I've been going to it since I was a little girl. I got my first pet reptiles there. So I went in and there was this vendor who was selling crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, and leechies. And a lot of vendors at that show, I don't know how common it is for all shows, but they had like their ambassador type animal, their mascot. It was this huge male leechie. And then when I mean huge, he was huge. He was at least almost half the length of my arm. But he was big, but I'm also a small girl, so maybe it's not that big. But he was huge. So how old was I? I think I was 14 or 15 when this happened. So I'm at his table and I'm mostly looking for a crested gecko. And I'm looking at all of the stuff, and it's like he had some really cool stuff. But it was little. I didn't have that much money, so I was looking for something in my budget. And he had this huge leechie. He was letting people take pictures of it. He was allowing people to hold it. So the vendor would pick his leechie up and he would put it on your arm and you could take a photo of it. And he asked me if I wanted it to take a photo and put it on my arm. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. I would actually really like that. I would like to look at it closer. And he put it on my arm, and thankfully I had a long sleeve shirt on. I actually had a button down long sleeve shirt that you can take on and off. So he put this leechie on my arm, and I'm looking at him just like, this is so cool. His eyes are kind of creepy, and it's like kind of weird looking. It's baggy. It looks like it was it was a weird looking little creature. Not little, big creature. It was just funky. That was the first time I've ever seen one in person. And for whatever reason, this leechie did not like me. So it bit me, and it bit me hard. I've never been bitten that hard by a reptile before. It's like I had leopard geckos, and occasionally one would accidentally bite me because it thought my finger was a piece of food, but they let go, and it's like, oh, it's not that bad. Now, I've been bitten by a lot of animals. I've been bitten by dogs. I've been bitten by cats. I've been bitten by rodents. And I would compare that bite almost to the bite of a small cat, like a kitten. I've worked in animal shelters before, and I would compare it to when I've had to wrangle feral little kittens, and it hurts. So I think if I wasn't wearing a long sleeve shirt, it would have hurt a lot more because the gecko got mostly a mouthful of the shirt and not a mouthful of my skin. And this gecko was just biting and clamping and just like shaking his head a little. The vendor was like, oh, hold still, don't fling him off. It's like, I'm not going to fling him off, but I don't like this. It hurts. And he got the gecko off of me. But before he got the gecko off, it expressed its irritation at me more by taking a big old dump on my shirt. So it rolled down my shirt, kind of glanced off, and then plopped. You could hear the sound of the plop onto the ground. And it smelled horrific. And it was a massive poop. I mean, I've been around teacup chihuahuas that have smaller poops than that leechie. It was a big, wet, gross, sloppy poop. And the vendor was really apologetic, felt really bad, and actually gave me a discount on a crested gecko. He gave me a 50% discount and a free bag of food. So I think I kind of I got bit and I got pooped on, so it wasn't that bad. But from that day, I've kind of had a dislike of leechies, a big dislike of leechies. So learning more about them now, there's a lot I don't like about leechies. So they're aggressive. They're really aggressive. So they're cage aggressive. A lot of people say, oh, it's all bluff until you get bitten. Then it's not bluff no more. They're cage aggressive. They're also spouse beaters. So leechies, if they don't like each other or if they decide they want to get a leechy divorce, they'll beat the living poop out of each other. They're just so aggressive. It's like, I don't like animals that have that really, really aggressive breeding behavior. It's just something I'm totally uninterested in keeping. And also their aggression towards their owners sometimes. It's like they can be super, super cage aggressive. Sometimes you'll get a leechy that's super sweet. It's like wouldn't harm a fly. But then other times you get little psycho leechy and they're big. So they're big and they're aggressive. It's one thing if it was tiny, like a crested gecko, and it's like, screaming at you, barking at you. It's like, I'm gonna get you. It's tiny, it doesn't matter. But since they're so large and they have the jaw strength to back it up, it hurts. It's not gonna seriously harm you, but it hurts. It doesn't feel good. And the fact that they're just so vocal and they're just aggressive, I don't like them. I think they're one of the worst geckos of New Caledonia. I don't like them. I have beef with leechies, and I also think they're kind of ugly. So, looking at all the other New Caledonian geckos is like, they're beautiful. Crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, chahua geckos, and then there's this other one that I just learned about, the rough-nosed gecko. It's beautiful. Leechies. I'm baggy skin, droopy, creepy eyes, stubby little tail. They're the ugly stepchild of New Caledonia. They're ugly, and they have bad attitudes, and they're aggressive during breeding. They're just mean. And again, I'll point out that it's like they kind of like have little partners and they pair up for like almost for life. It's like, that's cute. Not many reptiles do that. That's super sweet. And then you find out if the one party is like, I don't like you no more. I want you out of here. And they start beating the poop out of each other. It's like, that's less sweet. That's kind of, that took the cuteness out of it. But leechies are buttholes. That was my experience with a leechy the first time, and it's thrown me off the species. And again, I will never hold one. I will never own one. And I do not see the appeal of a gecko that large, that aggressive, and makes that giant poop. It's like, if I want to get something that aggressive and mean, I would just